Welcome back to my next playthrough series. This time it's 100 million BC. Escape from, which we look at the rulebook. That's of course what it says. So here we are trying to get away from dinosaurs. So I'm going to read you a little bit of the intro here so you get an idea of what the game is about. It says, your team of intrepid adventurers has embarked on history's first time traveling expedition, only for the professor's time machine to malfunction, crashing into the lip of an active volcano and sending you 100 million years in the past. Your supplies, along with several critical components of the time machine, have been scattered around the area. Worse, your presence in the past is causing the space-time continuum to unravel, further destabilizing the volcano that the time machine is perched atop. You must retrieve enough time machine parts for the professor to repair the machine for the time jaunt back to the future before a paradox erases you from history. Okay, that's in a nutshell what we're trying to do. So it's a dice chucking, tile exploration, rift opening adventure game with a lot of dice involved, as you will see. And so that was kind of the opening gist. So what do I need to show you? There are a bunch of cards which are going to be flipped when we encounter either dinosaurs, carnivorous or herbivorous, or aquatic. We have adventures where it can be going on. We have paradox time travelers, all kinds of wonky stuff. Not really going to go through the setup per se. I have set everything up. I'll explain it really quickly. But I think first we're going to go look at the time machine board. I'll explain that. And we're going to look at our two characters. And I think we're just going to get into the first turn to see how it plays by playing the game. Alright, so I just wanted to show you the right side of the board very quickly because it is all of the shuffled card stacks. Right up at the very top is the equipment pack, or the equipment card deck, which is all the equipment that got strewn all over the place when we came here in the time machine and it blew apart and threw a whole bunch of equipment all over the place, which is weapons and first aid kits and ammo, whatever. You'll see as we go. And in a two-player game, which I'm doing, you can play from 1 character to 6. You remove 16 cards out of that deck. And it'll make sense because we don't want the paradox track to go all the way to this volcano space here because you'll lose the game. And part of the mechanics of the game is any equipment that you leave behind when you finally fix the time machine and leave adds to this paradise track. And if this paradise track makes it to that volcano, you basically pooched the space-time continuum and everything is destroyed or some such thing. So you don't want that to happen. That's a lose condition. Up next here we have the time castaways, and that's anything from creatures or people in history that have come through rifts. And we have one right now, which came through rift number 5 as part of the setup. You actually pull one character. So the character we have, we might as well take a look at her. Amelia Earhart, the castaway, time castaway. And it says Amelia's time rift immediately closes after she appears, because basically she's lost in time and space in the real world, and she appears here. And so her rift closes, which means she can never go back. But this little symbol over here, this little triangle, is the time paradox penalty. So if she's left behind here in this 100 million BC, then the penalty for time paradox is 0. She appears 2 spaces this way from the rift. The rift opened in 5 and then immediately closed, and she shows up 2 spaces in this direction. So this is the number 5 indicating her. Put a little 5 token on it. And this 3 little eyeball symbol here is the difficulty to recruit her. And we'll see our characters here in a second. They have willpower and strength, movement, and health. So we're going to do opposing dice checks once and if we get to her space with her to try to recruit her. All right, lots of information. I know I'm not going to go over the rules per se. We'll see them in action as we play. The next up is a little hat symbol. It is the general encounter deck. And what happens is as we explore, we're going to flip tiles here. And the tiles, if they have one of these hat symbols on it, you get a generic encounter. Then we have aquatic dinosaurs, carnivorous ones, and herbivorous ones, or herbivorous ones. And those are the decks corresponding to them. Will all make sense when we play the game. So right now we're going to take a look at our 2 randomly chosen adventurers. We have the botanist and we have the reporter. So we're going to take a look at them. And first we'll look after the time machine tracker pad, kind of call it. Then we'll look at our two. And yes, I'm whipping through it at 100,000 miles per hour, but there you have it. So these are all the randomly shuffled exploration tiles. I'm playing on the wimpiest level, which is the thrilling difficulty. We need to retrieve 6 time machine parts to be able to fix the time machine, to be able to go back in time to where, or forward in time to where we came from, and hope we don't have the time continuum messed up. And this is the emergency recall section. We can, as an action, be emergency recalled back to the volcano space. And it's on the number 1 right here. So the first time it happens, it's going to cost us 1 on the paradox tracker, which is actually right here. So if I just kind of scroll down a little bit here, we're playing a 2-player game, or 2 heroes. The paradox tracker starts here on the number 1 space in where it says 2 heroes. And you can see this little rift thing here. That's our starting rift for the game, which we had Amelia Earhart show up. And of course, every time things happen, the paradox will continue to rise. And of course, if it gets all the way over to the volcano, we lose the game. So this is our little tracker sheet up here, which keeps track of, we're going to be doing the thrilling difficulty, which is the easiest. We need 6 time machine parts. Then we can gate out of here and go back to the future. All right, I'm going to zoom in on our characters. We're going to look at their special abilities and what have you. All right, I'm not sure exactly how simple this is to see, but each character starts out with 2 items to begin the game out of the equipment pack. And our botanist here, which is Johann Wilder, started off with a tasty snack cakes, which are useless but delicious. And you see a number here next to the paradox symbol. That's how much you add to the paradox track at the end of the game when you go back to the future, if it's left behind. So that's a pretty good one to have. He also has a machete, and it says you may spend 1 will token to move through a partial or closed trail, and it will make sense. You may spend 2 will tokens to move through a block trail, and I'll explain that as we're playing the game. And it says you may not use this card while fleeing, and fleeing will probably happen in this game because we're going to be encountering dinosaurs. Some of them are carnivorous, some of them want to eat us for lunch. All right, he is going to be the first player. He has 2 brawn, 5 will, 3 movement, and 3 health. All makes sense when we start doing skill checks and stuff. And he's a botany expert. So each time Johann resolves a flower icon, and you'll see them on the other side of the tiles, he may gain an equipment card instead of a will token. That's really cool. So we'll see that in action as well. In addition, when making skill checks during an adventure, Johann always rolls 1 extra die. All right, so during an adventure, that was the hat symbol card. So pretty cool. So that's our first player, the botanist, Johann. And up next, we're going to take a look at the reporter, Jake Stern. All right, here we have Jake Stern. These little tokens here correspond to your willpower. So, of course, at the start of the game, we have our maximum, which is 5 for Johann, and will be 3 here with these 3 tokens for Jake Stern. Jake starts off with a pistol, and it has 4 ammo, so there's 4 of these ammo tokens on him, and they'll make sense as we play the game. It gives him +1 brawn checks during combat, so if he's going to fight a dinosaur, pretty cool. It also has a repel ability. In this game, if you kill a dinosaur, it gets removed from the game because it's dead, but it adds 2 to the paradox track. And of course, we don't want the paradox track to go all the way up to the volcano, or we lose the game. The other thing you can do is spend a will token and use the repel ability, which means if you succeed, you drive the creature away, you don't kill it. So that's a way to not have the paradox track increase, but then that creature goes into the discard pile and can show up again later in the game. All right, so that's the pistol. He also has running shoes, which is kind of cool because it looks like he's wearing running shoes. It gives him a +1 to speed checks. So it doesn't give him a +1 to his speed, but if there's speed checks needed, especially for fleeing, he will get +1 for that. And the paradox penalty for the pistol was only 1, and the running shoes was 0. So no real gain there. And let's take a look at his abilities. So he has 4 brawn, 3 willpower, 4 movement, and 3 health. Keenly observant. When exploring a new map tile, Jake may rotate it 1 turn to the left or right as long as a complete trail leads back to the tile he's leaving. It'll make sense here when you see that in action here in a moment. In addition, when fleeing, Jake may spend 1 will token to choose the direction in which he flees. And I should mention you can get more will tokens than your printed value. So if he lands on a flower space, as we'll see perhaps, he can go up to 4, 5, 6, 7. He can have as many willpower tokens as he wants. Okay, I think without explaining anything else, I think we're just going to go ahead and do the first round in this episode. You will see how things work, and then that will be intro and episode 1. All right, so let's begin with, we have our botanist here, and he's on the little time, or the volcano space, and he has a movement of 3, so he's able to move 3. Now, if you have an encounter, if you encounter a monster, or dinosaur, I mean, you have to end your movement. And so, he has 3, so we have to pick a direction. Well, right now, it's all mountains all the way around. He has the best influence. I think he wants to go over here and try and persuade Amelia Earhart to join him. So he's going to move right here. Well, how do we move? He's got 3 movements. I'm going to take the top tile off of the movement track, and we're going to put it on there. Cool. So, wow, if this is not going to glare so much. We have a flower symbol on here, and you enter by these 2 little arrow symbols on the bottom, if you can see that. So he's going in this direction. Of course, that's partially blocked. So he's going to move in here. The flower symbol means he's going to get a bonus willpower token. So now, wow, he's got 6 of them. That's awesome because it's used for rerolls. He has had no encounter there, so he can continue moving. He still has 2 movement left. Now, he's going to go ahead and use his machete, I think. Or no, he's not. No, he's not going to. He's going to move down here because it's an open space. There's no log indicating kind of a block trail. So away he goes again. All right, and we see the arrows here entering. This time we have a herbivore symbol and 2 items, or 2 pieces of equipment. And how we designate the equipment is we're going to put these little cubes on here. He's going to move in here, but he is going to encounter a herbivore, which means he's going to have to end his movement. This is not particularly good. Oh my god, Brontosaurus. Herbivorous creature, dinosaur. Now, there's a bunch of information on this card. The Brontosaurus is 8 brawn, 4 movement. He has a passive 3+. So what we need to, we're going to roll 1 die. If we roll a 3+ on the 1 die, it means the Brontosaurus just kind of ignores us and we don't have any more any more contact with him. If we fail this roll, then we're going to get into something called Pack 4. So you may see that happen. All right, so we have the Brontosaurus right here, but we may be able to avoid him. So we're going to take a die, and we're going to roll 1 die and see if we can get a 3+. And we get a 5. All right, what does that mean? It means the passive ability, it means the Brontosaurus basically doesn't care about us. And we just go, it goes on its way. So this is going to go in the discard pile. We're not going to have any more issues with it. But we are going to be finishing our turn there. We can't move anymore because we've had an encounter. But there's no out-of-time adventurers. What did we call them? Sorry, time castaways on the spot. No dinosaurs on the spot. So he can collect the items here. So he's going to collect the 2 pieces of equipment, which is awesome. Does he have any... Oh, it says, well, he could have got equipment for the flower symbol, but I wanted him to have the extra willpower anyway, because that's a special ability. All right, so we're going to go ahead, and he's going to get 2 equipment cards. So he basically gets 2 pieces of equipment. Wow, that's pretty good. And he gets the survival guide, +1 to will checks. Wow, he's got absolute amount of will checks coming out of everywhere. And he found an elephant gun in with the equipment as well. +3 to brawn checks during combat, ammo 2, and it has the repel ability, and it was worth 2 on the paradox track. So we're going to put 2 ammo tokens on that. And he also, now he has another weapon. Or no, he has his first weapon, because he didn't have any weapons. He had the machete, which can't be used for fighting. Hope this is making sense. Not sure if it is. So that's basically our botanist, Johan's turn. Up next is going to be Jake's turn. All right, I think for Jake's going to go in a different direction. Or should he go and collect the survival guide from the Botanist? Because I don't know if he wants to do that. Would give him a buff there. Nah, I don't think so. He has a movement of 4, so he's going to take his first step and go in the opposite direction. So again, we're going to pull out the top tile, and he's going to have an adventure. So he's going to move in here, and boom, that's going to be the end of his turn, because we're going to pull an adventure card. Now, does it say anything exciting? Storing the map. Oh, he can rotate this once clockwise or counterclockwise if he wants. I don't know. I think he's just going to leave it the way it was. I don't think he's going to rotate it, because there's not really much point in doing it. So let's take a look at his adventure. And he finds the tar pit, if this thing will focus. And we have to look down here to see if it has the proper symbol. It does not have the mountain symbol, so this card is going to get discarded. All right, so we have to check for that, of course. So we're going to go to the next adventure card and see if it has the mountain. It also does not have the mountain symbol. It gets discarded. We keep going through the cards until we find one with the mountain symbol, which is this one. Okay, on the edge. You notice a time machine part teetering on the edge of a deep crevice. It could fall at any minute. Ooh. Pass a speed 5 check to grab the time machine part before it can fall. Otherwise, the time machine part is lost in the depths of the crevice. Cool. So he might be able to get a time machine part. Now, he's going to be competing against a speed of 5. He has running shoes, giving him a +1 to speed check. So he is also going to be rolling 5 dice. So how this works is it's an opposing die rolling check with exploding 6s. Let's hope that makes sense. All right, I'm going to readjust the camera a little bit, and we're going to get rolling the dice, see if he can retrieve that time machine. All right, so I've set the dice tower up here. So we're going to roll the 5 dice for the check, for the speed check, and then we'll roll his 5 dice to see if he can beat it. So let's see how many successes. Oh, and successes are 4, 5s, and 6s. No, and 6s are exploding. So that's 1 success and 2 successes. He's trying to beat this, and this is going to be another one, a 5. So it's 3 successes. Now, if you tie or exceed the number of successes of the check you're competing against, you will succeed. So he needs to get 3 successes or more to be able to retrieve the time machine part. So let's see if we can do it. And there you have it. So he gets 1, 2, 3 successes, and he gets to re-roll 1, actually, so I might as well do that. He actually gets 4 successes versus the test, and only being 3 successes. All right, so he retrieves the time machine part, which is indicated by this, before it falls into the crevice. All right, so we've got our first time machine part. Remember, we need 6 of them to repair the time machine, and get back to our proper time. Okay, that is going to conclude his adventure. Or he had an adventure, so he can't do anything else. He can't move anymore. So he's finished. So we've had our botanist go, we've had our reporter go, and now it's called the paradox phase, I believe. So we're going to come right back, and we're going to roll a couple of dice, and I'll show you how that works. All right, so for the paradox phase, we actually roll 2 dice, and the game comes with a red die as well as 11 white dice. We're going to roll 2 of these, and I'll explain what we're looking at after we roll them. All right, so we end up rolling a 4 on the white die and a 2 on the red die. What we need to look at is the number of the rifts. There are 6 rift locations on the board, as you can see here, 1 through 6 around there. If any rifts are open, which at this point in time there are, because Amelia's number 5 rift immediately closed when she showed up, for every die matching an open rift, we would have to add 1 here to the paradox track. It would go up 1. So that's not going to happen. Next, we look at movement. So any creatures down here on the activity track, the only one we have is Amelia Earhart. She is going to move according to the number that is on the red die. So we're going to look at a couple of things here. I guess we can see it on camera. Up here is it says flying and out of phase movement. Right now she's out of phase because she's not on an explored space by any of our characters. So she's going to move according to the numbers on this. And 2 is actually this way, right. Amelia wanders right into the space of our botanist according to the number 2. So that is really cool. So he's going to be able to encounter her at the beginning of his next turn. All right, the next thing we look at is, you can just see it here on the temporal instability number. So the temporal instability caused by us crashing into the past here, 100 million BC. We're going to add the two numbers together. The 4 and 2, of course, make 6, and we need to be higher than this number. If we're equal to or less than the temporal instability number, then we will open another rift on the board. It will open. Luckily for us, we've rolled 6. The temporal instability right now is at 5, so we're not going to get another rift on the board, which would then bring in another time castaway. So luckily, we've kind of dodged everything as far as the paradox phase goes, and that will basically conclude kind of round 1. So I don't know. It's it's going to be kind of a rapid fire game. I hope I'm not going to mess up too many rules, but of course I will, because this is what I do in my playthroughs. But hopefully through notes and comments we can catch them. So I hope that was clear as mud as we went through that first turn. And what I will probably do, so I can edit and try and catch things, is do 1 episode per round. So every episode we're going to have our botanist go, he's the first player, then our reporter, and then we're going to have the paradox phase, and that will be an episode. So they could be long depending on how many encounters or dinosaur adventures or things happen, or they could be relatively short if not a lot takes place. So thanks so much for watching along. This is Escape from 100 Million BC, and we're doing a 2-player game. It's totally co-op, so it can be played solitaire, which is pretty cool, although I wouldn't suggest trying to run 6 players at once. I think that would be a bit much. So once again, thanks so much. Thanks for your subscriptions, your comments, your likes. Really appreciate it. Join me next time for the continuation of Escape from 100 Million BC as our botanist and reporter try and find the strewn about time machine parts, bring them back to the professor, who will fix the time machine and get us out of here. Thanks so much, and we'll see you next time.